Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got my buddy Chris Lautenslager with us. He's going to talk to you about his book and his teaching series and his coaching program, really helping small businesses achieve what they need to achieve and what they want to achieve, right? Finding those places where they have issues that are holding them back from growing to where they want to go. And it's just a wealth of knowledge. Chris brings with him this treasure trove of abilities. So I'm excited for you. Chris, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
Most entrepreneurs don't realize that their thoughts, actions, and behaviors are causing their issues, right? Right off the get-go, I want to jump into what it's causing and how do we start to look at that and help them, get through the myriad of things they need to do to grow.
What I found, Anthony, in my own life and in working with other entrepreneurs is that the more conscious we become of our actions, the more purposeful we are of our actions, the more effective we are as human beings, the more successful we are within our business. So principles, values, may I use the word morals, matter. Okay? Who wants to work with someone that you have questions in regards to their character? I don't, and neither does anybody else. And people have this inner sense within them of, can I trust this person? Now, don't get me wrong. I've been fooled. I think we all have. And that's why we have this sense of hesitancy at times. But I think over the years, particularly as I've gotten older, I err on believing in others. I want others to succeed. I want to have a partnership with others that are positive. And vice versa. When I get burned, I cut things off very quickly. You don't get 3 strikes, you're out in my book. You get 1. Now, some people have made amends, and I'm most certainly open to that concept of people make mistakes. We're all humans. Gosh knows I've made my fair share of mistakes.
Same.
And people have been super gracious in regards to forgiving. Nobody ever forgets, but people can forgive, and that's grace. That's a gift. So not putting yourself in that position, having a set of principles, having a moral code, acting in a manner that creates trust and support is one of the best things you can do to be successful in your business and in your life.
Well, I mean, the problem is I've got this built-in ego that tells me what I'm doing is okay, right? I've got this justifier for these behaviors, and it's what I look. I can't see what I'm doing wrong, because if I could, I wouldn't be doing, right? I mean, I want to be a good person. I mean, ultimately, I think most people want to be good people. But the problem is that, I've got this justifier that kicks in, and he's not telling me, or it's telling me, I call him Fred, right? I got this voice in my head, Fred, and Fred's kind of, it's okay. It's all right that you didn't pay that on time, or you told that guy you're going to do that, but no, you know what? That guy's a jerk anyways. You didn't need to do that. Some commitments that I'm, it's cunning. Right? How that justification kicks in. And a lot of times I need someone outside of me that I can trust with communication and say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm facing. I need that person outside of me to go, hey, no. That's complete nonsense. You're making that up. Here's how that's affecting with you. I need someone outside of me that I can trust. And that's not all the time. I mean, look, for a majority of things I do, I think I'm pretty effective. But then there are things where I've got these built-in stories that I've created, and I think that's where the coaching comes in for most of us, right? If you really want to get to the next level, if you notice that you're placing business and you're stuck, and you're like, well, I can't figure out how to get break this, or I can't break $1 million, or I can't break a thing, or whatever, where they're stuck. That's where a coach comes in and starts to look at you and go, all right, let's look at your thoughts, your actions, and your behaviors, and seeing how those are affecting what's happening in your life. Because I don't believe we can. I don't think we can effectively. Maybe some of us can, but I noticed it was tough for me without a coach.
Anthony, I'm going to go down 2 lanes here. The first is the voice inside your head. Okay. we know when we're lying to ourselves. We do. We might deny it. We might pretend. We might justify. But we know when we're lying to ourselves. Where a coach comes in is twofold. One is learning how to be able to work through that. Okay. And the other is learning how to be better when you're wrong. It's kind of like going to school. Okay. We didn't reach our level of knowledge or experience or education. You didn't learn to read or write without having a teacher, a coach, training you in regards to how to acquire these skills. Well, a good coach is someone who allows you to be able to understand that voice within you and being able to teach you how to act on it. Okay. That's the super hard part. All right. Is changing your behavior when you know you should, or you might not even know how to make that adjustment. A good coach will identify it and bring you down the road to be able to change your behavior. I mean, I go through, I get up very early in the morning and I go through a morning process. I go through a morning in which I read, I meditate, I pray, and I center myself for the day. I review, what am I going to do today? What are my goals? What are my objectives? That didn't come from me. I mean, there was a time in my life, 8 a.m., that seems pretty aggressive. If you had told me that I'd be getting up at 5 o'clock and doing all these things, going and exercise, I was never an exercise guy in the morning. And I want to make this point really clear. That didn't all start on day one. Incremental. You didn't learn geometry when you were in first grade. Okay. You build up and you take incremental steps. And that's the process of growing. You don't become a black belt your first month in class. Okay. You learn the basics, you practice, you get into shape, you start acquiring the skills. And a good coach sees where you need to improve, identifies new things for you to learn, and then helps you to be able to embrace those and make those part of your life.
It was kind of funny. One of the coaches I had early on, her name was June Woodward. And June was this beautiful woman. She did a course called Advanced Reality Training. And she used to say, you don't realize the stories that you have, that you carry, that are causing. And she would be one of the stories I carried. She was talking about her early childhood. Her father used to say, all Puerto Ricans carry knives. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, all Puerto Ricans carry knives. And she grew up every time she'd meet a Puerto Rican person thinking they have a knife. And one day she marries this beautiful Puerto Rican man who never carried a knife. And but it was some story that was handed to her from her worldview, right? Her parents being her worldview at the time, gives her this story. Now that impacts every relationship she has with the people she meets. Now, how many places and she would tell us that story because
I love that story,
right? It would give you a great look into the lenses that we carry, that our worldview, our community view, our social view, our all the stories we've been given, and how we look at the world through those stories. And how does that impact my ability to really look at the real data, right? Like really what's going on here. And my judgment is that's a big one. Like really what's happening, and then my story about what's happening. And that story is really where I create the possibility of things, right? If like for June, if every Puerto Rican carried knives, right? The ability for her to be present in the moment with somebody, worrying hard, when's that knife coming out, would be difficult, right? Then if go on and the paradigm shift happens, when she marries this beautiful man who's Puerto Rican, and they have a beautiful relationship for many, many years, where the possibility of like, no, that's not true. That was some story I was given and I carried, right? So I think that happens. And, the gift is with a coach is someone that can look at you and go, hey, maybe, let's take a look at some distinctions. And one of the distinctions might be, kind of what happened, and then your story about what happened, right? And how is your story about what's happening in the moment affecting your ability to lead your company?
Isn't that really the magic of having a good coach? Having that conversation with a new perspective, having someone being able to challenge you and being able to say, have you considered this, or why do you view it that way? Where's that come from? I mean, Anthony, how many coaches have you had in your life over the years?
Dozens.
I mean, think of it. Everything from maybe a therapist, maybe a health coach, maybe a diet coach, maybe a school teacher, as I'd said. By the way, I love teachers. I think they're super important in our society, and hats off to all the teachers out there.
Nice.
The fact is that what a gift it is to be able to leverage other people's knowledge. And that's why selecting a coach is really important. Okay. When you go through that selection process, don't be afraid to ask questions. Show me the proof. You know, when you go to be in partnership with someone that you haven't met before, you just don't base it on his promises or on his word. How many projects have you done? Show me those projects. What was the budget? Were you successful in regards to doing it on time and under budget? Who are the references that you have? Who can I talk to about working with you? Do your homework in selecting your coach, because you're investing in yourself. Okay. And good coaches, they're not cheap. And they shouldn't be cheap, because they can quantum leap your life.
Well, and therein lies the justifier. Well, I'm not going to pay $2,000 a month to have a coach, or I'm not going to pay that $1,000, whatever that cost is for your coaching.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden it becomes, well, the justifier. Well, maybe I'm not so bad. Maybe I can figure this out. And I've learned throughout time. I go through that conversation all the time. I remember I was paying a coach. It was like $15,000 a month for a coach to be here, and moved our company mountains, right? Like literally moved us mountains. We broke $85 million. We broke all kinds of great stuff with our hiring and the way that we inclusion and the way that we hired people. This coach moved mountains for us. But when you looked at someone who's looking at the books going, well, that's $15,000 a month for that coach. That's a lot of money. All of a sudden, the outside influences can start to make you question, all right, is this the right thing to do? And I don't know that you have to do it all the time, right? So maybe it's something that you bring in at key parts, but I've certainly learned that bringing in those coaches, and sometimes they are really expensive. They are a gift, right? But there's also something you said that I liked, was that they're also, not every coach is for, even someone who worked great with somebody else may not work with you. I think it's oftentimes like music. I like Kid Rock, and someone else may go, nope, I don't like Kid Rock. It sounds like a hillbilly. And I can get that. Like we can have, differing views on the same item, and the same thing can happen for coaches, right?
And it's not a neither or. I mean, actually, I believe that it's a combination of self-learning and support from outside. Okay. Because again, you can only learn so much from, today with podcasts and with so much of education material that's readily available. If you're not spending some time every day, I spend some time every morning and some time every night, and it can literally be 10 minutes. Okay. But it's the habit. It's often more, but it's just the habit of, I've committed to myself, and this is super important. I've made this commitment that I'm going to go through this ritual. That's what it is for me. It's a ritual of self-investment. And I'm going to do that. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to hire outside help. I need expertise in this area, or this area. And $15,000 a month for what you were doing was, for people that are out there, it sounds extraordinary and crazy. You don't start at $15,000 a month. You start at where you are. You're not at that. If you don't have that money available, that's because you're not at that point. Let's build to that point. In fact, if you didn't have that type of money and you tried to invest in it, it would be a waste because you don't have the resources or the skill sets yet. You need to, again, you don't go from first grade to college, okay? You go through the process. Now you can accelerate that process, and here's a crazy concept. You get out of it what you put into it, okay? There's no shortcuts here. And believe me, I went through a period of my life where I was, how can I find a quicker, shorter way? There was a partner that I had who, when I was very young, and this was some of the worst advice that I followed for years. Make more, do less. Okay. That was his philosophy in life. Make more, do less. And so I was always looking for the shortcut. That is fundamentally set up for failure, because what I've found, the people that are super successful, and in my own life, I've had the greatest levels of success when I fucking work my ass off.
That's right. Well, I mean, look, luck and success and hard work are all in that same, they're not all at the same playground. There is, you know, maybe there's
different seasons in life.
Well, there might be the occasional luck, you know, at birth or luck at some, but the playground that the hard work is in is the same playground that luck shows up in, and the same playground, you know, that all of that happens on the same playground, right? Rarely do I get lucky if I'm not working my butt off. You know, it's very, very few times when that happens.
And the people that you're going to partner with, and I'll stress this again, you know, the concept of a self-made millionaire, another fallacy. There's no such thing as a self-made millionaire. Every single person that's successful has relationships and partnerships and support from often hundreds of others, okay? Is other people see what type of character you have by the actions that you take. And if they see that you're putting into it, and, you know, whether it's putting in those long hours or reading while you're on the subway or taking the time to go and commit to your family, whether it's with church or with school or all of those other areas that demonstrate character, that demonstrate principles and morality. And morality, people get all nervous about that word, but it's okay. It's okay to have a moral character, okay? And I'm not saying that, you know, I have the definitive book on what's right or wrong, but I do have guidelines. And, you know, I come from a basis of faith, and there's in every faith, doesn't matter which one you pursue, has a foundation of principles that are all intertwined and helping others. So
yeah, I mean, all of them. I mean, I've studied lots of religions, and they all are primarily have, you know, quit being selfish, you know, help others, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, you know, finding ways to.
There's no secrets here.
Yeah. They're all in a very similar vein.
Very much so.
You know, give more than you take, you know, some version of saying that.
So if you practice these types of principles, you're going to have a much higher degree likelihood of success. There's no guarantees out there.
No.
But again, it's like, how do we increase the odds? If you didn't practice those principles, what's the likelihood of you getting any level of success? You know, again, I've been a drug addict. I am a drug addict. I'm just not an active one. I wasn't making a lot of progress when I'm smoking meth. Okay.
Yeah, right. There is no, there's tomorrow morning
no opportunities coming my way.
No. There's no like life is moving forward. There's no possibility.
It's not all happening around me. Okay. But if I'm working on a day-by-day basis, so I'm going to college, if I'm putting in the hours, if I have a side gig in which I'm supporting and creating a business outside of my regular 9-to-5, people notice, okay? You put yourself in situations that are open to success, and that's all you can really do.
Well, it was always kind of funny. Like, you know, the old expression or old I don't know if it's an expression or saying, if my car breaks down and I'm sitting in my car waiting for someone to help me, rarely does anybody help me. But, if my car breaks down, I get outside, start pushing it, 10 people jump out of their car to help me.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the same thing when I really go out and realize I don't have this. I don't have it all figured out, nor do I need to. The world is an abundant place of help, and the books, the tapes, the podcasts, the TV show, the stuff that I feed my brain is that outside help. Look, if I keep doing what I've been doing, I'm going to keep getting what I've been getting. If I want to go somewhere different, I'm going to have to enroll others. I'm going to have to enroll some other ideas that are going to help me get there. And so where are those ideas? They're not in me yet. Now, that's why I bring the coach in. I bring the coach in and says, hey, all right, great. Look, let's look at what you did today. Well, look, you're not making sales. Well, let's go take a look at your day this morning. How many phone calls did you make?
How many phone calls did you make?
Yeah, right.
What's your database?
Right,
Where are you getting your leads from?
Right.
Is there a better way to be able to get them? What's your closing ratio? I mean,
it's a formula that is proven in the coach that knows how to do that.
Yes.
Right. And the same thing goes, well, if you're having a bad time getting a relationship, well, why can't I get a relationship? Well, let's see here. Every time you show up, you do this, right? Or do that. And your behavior, thoughts, actions, behaviors are causing you to find, first of all, you're looking in the wrong spot, maybe, or maybe you're talking the wrong way, or maybe you're acting in a foolish behavior that's attracting and bringing people that aren't going to have great relationships with you. And you can't see that sometimes because I feel like the justifier, at least my justifier did. And the gift of great coaching has always been the gift of saying, all right, let's look at those places where my life, there's a good signal when things are breaking down, the areas of my life that are breaking down. That's a pretty good signal that might be an opportunity to do some coaching on. And if I can lay that open. Now, this is where I love Will Smith's book. It says everything great is right on the other side of scaring the crap out of yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. And that phone call to call and say, hey, I'm looking for a coach, because, calling someone to look for a coach, I've called a lot of coaches, and there's a voice inside of me that says, no, don't.
I was just going to say, and did you hire them all?
No. But look, even in the moment when I'm calling them, the voice is like, no, you don't need to do this. What are you, stupid? But I know, shut up, Fred. Right. I tell Fred in my head, shut up. I'm going to do this because I committed to getting a coach. Now, why did I commit to getting a coach? I know that when I bring outside support into my world, that I get to see things in a different view. When I get out of, I just came back from Florence, and I just getting on that plane, just buying the ticket and getting on the plane, I already started to see a different view of the world. Right. To go there and see Michelangelo's artwork. See, he had these 3 artworks that were amazing. They were called The Prisoner. And they were kind of half finished statues he was building. And you could see the man kind of breaking out, these 3 kind of men that are breaking out of the stone. And it was such a great metaphor for our lives, right? That one inside of us that wants to be this great man that's breaking out of the stone. And really my job is to keep chiseling off the parts that aren't working. Right. What's the piece that's not working? Well, I mean, being an addict wasn't working. Right. Look, it felt good for a moment. Right. I had that little easy button. Right. That feeling that maybe that felt great. It felt great to get high and get drunk. I remember the first time you drank. Oh my God, that feeling of
it was wonderful.
Yeah. Come on. It felt great.
Yeah.
Until it didn't. Right. And then
until it didn't.
Right. And then you're going, all right.
And then it's real. And I couldn't stop until I got help.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I want to shift a little bit in regards to, we've been talking a lot in regards to focusing on our own self-improvement. One of the joys and one of the benefits that I think we get is also in helping others. Okay. Is also taking the time to invest in other human beings, because people have invested in me. And this was really hard for me, because I grew up in a family that was very secular, that didn't really care about others. Okay. In fact, there was a lot of infighting. There was a lot of craziness going on in our life. And so it was kind of a survival mode. I mean, life's hard. Life's busy.
Well, especially when you get people that are training you that way, right? I mean,
yes,
they didn't have the gift of knowing that. Think about the past generations. I mean, your parents and their parents came from Depression era, war era. I mean,
it's funny, Anthony. I took my children to go see the house that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And at the time we were living in Connecticut, a wealthy area of Connecticut. I was doing very well at the time. And we went to our home. And in my mind, the memories that I had of this, big house and and the pool in the backyard was just so amazing. And then from their perspective, I mean, the swimming pool that I had in the back of our house that I thought was so amazing, our neighbors have bigger fountains. Okay. I mean, they were just surprised.
Yeah.
Surprised. And it's what you're used to, what your perspective is. And it was at that point I was like, oh, I need to bring these kids into reality and start having them do volunteer work with me. I remember when my parents thought I needed to get religion when I was like in junior high, and they'd drop us off at the church on Sunday and then come and pick us up while they were, I think it was more so that they could read the paper on their own and not have anyone bother them.
I figured out what it was. I came home early one day and my dad was getting a little nookie. I completely figured out his game. He was like, he's dropping my ass off at church that him and mom could have a little fun while we were in church. I came in a little early and they were both sweating. I'm like, uh-oh, there's something going on here.
Something going on. So it's, again, you lead by example.
Yeah.
And when you invest in other people, I've found that in being a coach now and helping other people, and particularly business owners, really where I've been focusing on a lot in my coaching right now is helping business owners that are in crisis, that are struggling, that are in a bind. And often they find themselves in a bind because of addiction, alcohol, gambling, food, their health. My dad died of a heart attack when he was 38. And he was the typical male in let's see, my dad died in 1970. So he had the big, beer belly and little tiny skinny legs and a big temper and all of the classic syndromes. And he died of a heart attack. And whether it's our health, whether it's our relationships, generally people don't come to me until their crisis is at a point where they're in trouble. Okay. And they're like, my cash flows at such that I don't know where how I'm going to be able to pay my bills. I can't get out of bed in the morning because I'm filled with so much fear. I don't know what to say to my wife because of X, Y, or Z reason. I'm afraid. Bottom line, that's what it comes down to. And having someone that can give you their courage, that can share their courage, that can help you walk over that line into a better life. Because at that time, it doesn't look like there's going to be a better life. And for a period of time, it might be a step down or two. Nobody wants to take a step down or two, even if it means that you're going to, trampoline into a whole new era of amazing life. But it sometimes takes a little bit of help. So, most people think of coaching, okay, my life's going great and I want to take it to the next level. And I'm ready to hire someone to bring it to the next level. There's other coaching concepts also that when your life is filled with crap, you need some help because it ain't working. And I don't know the answer. And I need the answer from someone who's been in this situation and can help me through it.
Well, and that's really the thing to know is that success is fleeting, right? Look, even when we're at the top of our top and the highs of the highs, I mean, I've been years where I've made $5 or $6 million a year and got, oh my God, I'll never, ever, ever. I mean, just you're thinking that life's always
never going to go down. It's only going to go up.
And then there's years when I'm giving away millions of dollars, and you go, okay, whoa, I can see it coming off the rails, and that's shocking, right? I think both sides need the coaching, right? I mean, the the one in me that gets, when I'm at the highs and I want someone to help me really to create long-term longevity, right? To make sure this is not a fleeting moment, or at least how to handle what's going on, right? Make sure my ego's not invested, make sure I don't get caught up in these outside things that are thinking this is what I need to be happy. And then I also need it when things are not working, right? When I'm stuck down there in hell and I don't know how to get out of hell, right? Hey, those of you that are down there in hell right now, right? Realize you're not alone. There's a world full of people that are dying to help. I remember the first time I asked for help, and that feeling that people grabbed a hold of me. And, I had a guy who supported me, well, and he said, look, son, he was an older gentleman, completely opposite of I was. And he's like, he helped me out of hell. And he goes, one day you're going to help another man out of hell. And this is how we're going to do it. Right. And he would give me this gift of showing me how to go through my life and look at certain things. And he said, one day you're going to do this for somebody else. I'm like, me? And that I couldn't wait. I know,
and it's true, isn't it?
Yeah. I couldn't wait. I did the work because one day I wanted to help somebody else. And I believe that most of us are that way. But I think most humans ultimately really do want to do that. I think fear and the world and worldview and all that nonsense that's kicking in sucks us into these ideas that it's not possible. But the world is really full of great ideas and great opportunities, and we've grown there. Now, bring in a coach, bring someone in that can help. And I think that's been our conversation, is really to bring in that conversation. Now, Chris, when you start to work with them, work with a business owner who's going through hell, how does that start? What does that call look like? What does that first conversation sound like?
So what are you afraid to talk about?
Oh, there you go.
What are you afraid to talk about? I know that this is the issue that you came here for, but what are you afraid to talk about? Let's have a conversation, because we're going to have to start getting really honest. If you want me to help you make significant adjustments to your life, we're going to need to be able to have difficult conversations. So let's just start putting that out on the table. Okay. And while it, for some, it's about their money or their relationship with their significant other, it often comes down to, I feel like nobody likes me. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And you want to know what? It's because I was not a nice person.
Yeah, I
wasn't doing things. It comes down to an old thing. How do you get self-esteem? You do esteemable acts. That's right. And they're not natural for many people. I wasn't taught how to do those things. I literally had to have a checklist. In fact, one of the things at my end of day is, have I done a random act of kindness today? Okay. What's a random act of kindness that I did today? It can be something super small. But sharing joy with other human beings is what helps bring the humanity, which helps build the relationships. Because again, it's not about ourselves. It's about the connection that we have throughout the world. That's the richness of life.
Well, so I just came back. I was talking about just come back from Florence, and you go on vacation. Vacation is essentially eating out someplace else, right? I don't know about you, but especially when you're in Italy and there's pasta and steak.
Food's so good.
Oh my God, it was everywhere.
Even on a it would be a hot dog stand.
No. There was in Florence. There's a sandwich shop that has a line that's got to be 150 people deep. And it's that good to stand in line for 150 people to go to a sandwich shop. Now, you'd got to know that's a good sandwich, right? You get up there, there's fresh prosciutto on this focaccia bread, and it's got this olive.
Baked.
Oh, my God. You're like,
so good.
God, the gods made this sandwich. The gods made this sandwich. Is wonderful. But it can't always be kind to your waistline. So I came back going, all right. So I'm gonna get back, and we're gonna just get back to chopping wood, carrying water, get back in the healthy diet, get back to eating normally. And I woke up yesterday morning, right? Because I got back the day before, and I went to get a cup of coffee. And like today, I was going to yesterday I was going to get back to cleansing. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I won't eat till 11. Kind of start create my 16 hours of fasting. And sitting right next to the coffee pot, my mother-in-law had made some fresh coffee cookies. I didn't do so well, right? Right, 30
We'll
minutes.
Start tomorrow.
Yeah, well, 30 minutes out of getting up, I ate those cookies. I ate 2 cookies, and I'm like, oh my God, all right. And then the shame kicked in, right? The shame monster kicks in. Like, oh my, I can't believe you just said you're going to do this, and now you're eating cookies in the morning. Now, I went to bed last night, and I woke up this morning. I realized something. I really meant it on the day before. I really meant that I was going to start my diet the next day. Now, the truth is that I was still detoxing from the sugars that I had eaten while traveling, right? My body was still in withdrawals. Yesterday morning, when I ate that, I really realized that I was literally still in the sugar withdrawals, right? I mean, I pastas and the food I eat on the plane and the stuff so cutting, baffling, and powerful kicks in around addiction. Right now, I woke up this morning, same cookie sitting right there, had no problem. I had another day of separation from it, right? I had a little bit of shame around it. That shame does motivate you a little bit, right? A little bit like I felt lucky about myself. All right, come on. You said that like tomorrow morning, both days I made to the gym yesterday morning. I made to the gym this morning, right? Esteemable acts, right? Those are the acts that say to my body, hey, you're into health, right? What goes in this mouth is really important to make the outcome of your being valuable, right? In order for me to be valuable at the office, I've got to carry some great energy into it. And that feeding it crap food doesn't give me the energy I need to be in the office.
No, you take a nap at 2:00 in the afternoon and it doesn't work.
Right. So that's, it doesn't fit with my vision of what a great leader.
Your life.
Right. So, but I think there's going to be those moments when you got to give yourself some grace, and you got to look back and go, all right, I yesterday I felt shame. And this morning, kind of a step away from like, why did I eat that cookie? I mean, I knew that I didn't want to eat the cookie the day before, but literally there was nothing to stop. There was no mechanism between my mouth and those cookies, right? it was sitting right there. And well, I mean, I'm like, right. I know, right? There was like the addiction was there. Right. And that's the cunning part about addiction. So those of you guys that get stuck in, hey, I said today I wasn't going to drink and I'm still drinking. We got to create some mechanisms to start to create that separation. I said to my wife, I might need a period of time where we don't have these cookies in the house. I said to her, look, if I get to tomorrow, I might need to have all this removed. Mm-hmm. Right. Because I might not be here. I may not be spiritually connected enough yet to be able to handle a house that's got.
You need to get back on track.
Right. I need to get back on track. And
momentum means so much.
And it's really tough to say that to a family who's got kids and they're eating cookies and they're like, all right, because dad's on a diet. We ought to have no cookies around here. I'm like, look, or put a lock on that pantry door. Right.
So I went through a period of time recently, maybe a couple of years ago, in which I really struggled with sugar.
Yeah.
And I love sugar, cookies, candy, ice cream, all the time. And I tried to find a number of different ways to quit sugar. And I went through, some suggestions of people that were like, okay, no cookies in the house. Well, that didn't work because there were people around that had food that, they wanted to be able to eat, and I couldn't impose my will on them. So it was the one that was actually the funniest was, I'm going to have a commitment with a friend, and every time I break my no sugar rule, I'm going to pay him $5. I'm going to Venmo him $5. Well, after a couple of months of that, it just wasn't working. You know what actually changed that whole concept? It wasn't the denial of no sugar. It was the repurposing of my life. Okay. Starting to have exercise, what's the reason why, starting to watch the scale, starting to actually measure my body fat percentage, actually having quarterly goals of my health objective was actually the most powerful thing, because sugar screwed that up completely.
Yeah.
So when you repurpose, instead of denial is a horrible way to try and manage your life. Refocusing to a better desire, a higher purpose, is so much more productive and enjoyable.
Well, it's like trying to be pushed by pain or pulled by vision, right? Being pulled by vision or
so much more fun,
right? It's just like that,
especially when you start making achievements, when you start, like I have quarterly objectives. I just have a new client, and he wants to be a professional speaker. And we're like, okay, so we're going to have a quarterly objective. What are the things that we need to do this quarter to get you, to your goal? You'd never thought of the concept of quarterly objectives. And I was like, and then we're going to every 2 weeks measure how you're working towards those quarterly objectives, just like a business.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, when you start to manage your own personal goals in a manner to achieve success, what's it going to take to achieve success? And I didn't know these things. Again, it was a coach that told me these things. It was, okay, so let's get serious about this. Let's measure.
Measure.
When you measure, when you keep track of it, particularly on a daily basis, when you are held accountable. So after a while, either you step up or you're like, I can't do this, and you can it. But what I found, and sometimes I've been like, I can't do this right now. But I always come back, because if the goal is important enough, then it's like, okay, so I'm at a point now where I can tackle this more seriously. I didn't realize the level of commitment that it was going to take to fulfill my goals. And the reason I'm saying this is that we fail. There are times that we have goals for ourselves that we don't measure up to those goals. And I'm not saying that it's not saying that it's bad per se. We want to succeed, but as you get more and more successful, your ability to justify failure becomes smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, the problem with failure is when we don't measure, like when I don't set, I don't set goals and expectations, right? And I don't measure them, right? What happens is I fail, and then shame kicks in. And like what happened to me is when I get that shame that kicks in, I get the efforts, right? All of a sudden I get like, forget it. I didn't mean to do it anyway. Like I start to, it takes me out, as opposed to when I build a goal and say, all right, I'm going to make 30 cold calls today, right? Or I'm going to do an hour worth of podcasting, or I'm going to do, some videos some shorts for my YouTube channel. If I'm going to put them out there, and those are goal, even if I only do half of that or I don't do any of it, I know what I was missing, right? I mean, look, at least I know that, all right, tomorrow, if I want to get back on track, maybe I'll double up on it. Or
if you miss it consistently, then you have a chance to say, all right, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
What needs to change? Yeah. Because when you have an ambiguous goal that you don't measure, then you can't really identify what's preventing you from fulfilling it. It's just like, the gods are against me kind of thing.
That happened with me with the gym. I was having a hard time, this is many years ago, but when I wasn't an early morning, I've been for many years now, I've been an early morning 5 a.m. right? I'm at the gym. I love being the guy when they're opening the door at the gym. I love opening the door as they're unlocking it. I love being there saying, good morning, Jim. The guy who unlocks it makes me so happy. There's something about that achievement. And so what it took for me to get there was I had to, first there was a great astronaut who wrote a book. I forget her name right now. 3-2-1 legs over the bed was her saying, right? And I read that book and I was like, oh, okay. 3-2-1 legs over the bed. And then there was a conversation. I forget it was David Goggins or Eddie Panero. One of those guys was listening in the morning. Said, "Look, if you make a plan in the morning, don't renegotiate in the morning. If you say that, hey, tomorrow morning I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, don't renegotiate. Right? That's the plan. Go there. So 3, 2, 1, legs over the bed. Getting the gym was the next secret. And the hard part for me was getting to the sneakers. If I got to my sneakers, I made it to the gym.
That level of, we'll call it discipline, but it's actually fulfillment to yourself.
Yeah.
It's actually, every one of those is a small investment into your own personal self-worth. Okay. When you, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. What used to be hard after 6 months, you don't even think about it anymore.
I'm up before my alarm clock now.
I am up before my alarm clock, not like 10 minutes before my alarm. I wake up, I look at my watch, and I'm like, how is this even possible?
Yeah. There's plenty of places where I'm working right now on the finance stuff, right? I hate budget and forecast. I mean, you asked me, it's an entrepreneur. I don't want to look at budget and forecast. And over time, I can notice that it's an energy suck for me. And so then I think, well, someone else should do it. And I let someone do it for the year last year, and we didn't meet our goals. But here, me as the entrepreneur, I'm held accountable. Look, I need to be in the day-to-day data of it. Hey, we didn't do this. I can make the decisions on a day-to-day basis, what our company needs to do, if I look at the data every single day, right? When I start making decision logic that's not based in data, right? It doesn't always have to be data, but I need to have data to grow those those goals, right? I mean, not all my decisions as a leader are based in data. Sometimes I have a gut feeling that takes me somewhere that's really great, right? I pull out of the universe something I see in the future that others aren't seeing, and people look at me like, all right, maybe you're a little nuts. But no, some reason I think that's the gift of a great entrepreneur, is that they can see something in the future or see something out there that's not even present now and bring it into the moment. And that's the gift of real clarity of vision. When you really start to work on these things, you bring those things in. And sometimes the data doesn't make sense at the time, but then you couple that with data, and those two abilities as an entrepreneur really help you excel organizations.
So Anthony, I have my own perspective, but I'm interested in yours also. You get up super early.
Yeah.
You have a very full life.
Yep.
You do podcasts, you do your business, you have your family. How do you balance the time?
It's amazing. I actually have a lot of time, and people always ask me, how do you do it? I'm like, well, one, I gave up some stuff, right? Like I have hours and hours of endless TV watching a night.
How much TV do you watch now?
I mean, the problem with me, if I sit down and watch TV, I don't make it very long before I fall asleep, right? Because when you get up at 5 a.m., my family all laughs. So they're all like, he's going.
There he goes.
He's going. My head starts to wobble. He's gone. And then they all look at me and they're like, all right, they look at me, Dad's gone. And I just, that night TV stuff for me was just junk food, right? It was like this thing that wasn't really serving me. Sit and watch. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love series watching and getting into some, maybe over a weekend, I'll watch a whole series of something, some binge watching, but it is just like drinking or getting high.
Stuff falls aside.
Yeah. Well, it's not feeding what my other goals are, right? My real goals right now are creating these organizations, right? For me, building great companies isn't just about the money today. It's about who I get to become to lead them. Right. And when I waste time watching TV, I'm like, that's not feeding that behavior. Right. For me, the gift of entrepreneurship has it's shifted from the money making, which I needed the money to get to where I am. Right. So at first it was there to kind of prove to the world, hey, I've got something valuable. Maybe it did solve that need in me as a young man, that little Tony that wanted to be seen by the world. And I can say that's true. I can say that some of that young entrepreneurship was about being seen. Right, look at me, look how valuable I am. And I would say, but that doesn't last very long. You get to a point where that kind of becomes empty and meaningless.
And there's people that always have more.
Yeah, you're never going to get to that. It's a mountain with no top. The next one becomes really who I get to become to lead people. Like, what kind of legacy would I like to leave? How would I like to be with the people I work with? Right? Who do I get to become to lead people? And what kind of light am I lighting their lights up? Right? Because there's many, many years I look over my life. And by the way, I get this mostly from my wife, right? She's the president of CDO Group now, and she builds great family and great team. And a lot of times, I would, when I was the leader of the company, I would look over my shoulder and there'd be a lot of dead bodies, right? We'd win, we'd make lots of money, but the battlefield had a lot of, we wore people out. They were exhausted. It wasn't, for me, it was all about the money thing. She's really more about building the community. I was in a meeting yesterday with one of our largest clients, and to see the way they talked about each other is really a testament to who my wife is, right? And the family. And when I watch her and what she does to build that community here at this company, and she really brings that energy that says we're a family. Look, things are tough, but we're going to make it through together, right? She's always like, we'll make it through together, and so I think there's the gift of where I am today as a leader is that I'm trying to bring on some new characteristics about legacy and what you want to leave for the world, and so I think that's a kind of the new space to be in.
It's interesting. I hadn't considered some of the concepts that you're talking about and putting them together. So I think people working for traditional corporate organizations is fading. It's just not rewarding. People getting a paycheck, 9 to 5. And while it's a great learning tool, I think everyone should go through the experience of working for a professional organization and having the discipline, getting the experience. I feel super fortunate that I've worked at organizations where I'd look around me in a room and just go, these are some of the most brilliant people I've ever seen in my life. How am I part of this kind of thing? I feel so fortunate, and I learned so much from that. But I think entrepreneurship and working in organizations that are more flexible in regards to how they treat each other, how they care for each other, is really going to be a trend that takes hold over the next decade. People don't want to, feel like a number.
Yeah, if companies can't achieve that we're doing this and seeing each individual as a contributor, rarely do they succeed, right? I mean, it's in those organizations that can say, look, you bring your bright light to this thing and we'll together our bright lights will shine even brighter. Great. I think those are the organizations we're seeing that are breaking through the boundaries. The ones that are trying to treat people like a robot and use them and abuse them, I'm not sure how long they'll last.
Yeah. The world is changing.
Yeah.
The world is changing. And I think organizations are going to get smaller, tighter, more productive, and more dynamic. Yeah. And I think it's really super exciting.
It's been great. We are growing fast. I mean, I being in Europe, beautiful, right? But you come back over here and you really do get the speed by which Americans are growing. This country is growing at 10x what other countries are growing at. The
Agreed.
Speed by which we're doing, and no wonder we're all a little bit nuts. I think that this is a time where you were right where you started, getting conscious and being in this conscious awareness of where my physical being is, right? What with the swirl of the storm, being in the eye of the storm, being the calm one in the middle of the eye of the storm. We're in a storm, right? The world is growing faster than ever before. I mean,
yes.
There's
a lot of uncertainty.
Well, I think there's always been uncertainty, but I feel more like there's just a lot of growth. I mean, with AI and the world and, when I was a kid, my parents could tell you what to do in your future. Go to school, get a good job, get a wife, raise a family, die, get a pension, and you kind of had a forecast of where to go. I don't know that I can't give that same advice to my kids. I don't know that their futures will have that same system to operate it with. The only thing I think we can give them today is consciousness. Like, all right, look, the world's going to change faster and faster and faster. Maybe the gift is saying, look, you got to know yourself better and better.
I was just going to say the moral compass, principles.
Yeah.
First principles.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that are going to be consistent regardless of the environment that you're in, and that will serve you well. And well doesn't always necessarily mean, exponential financial success. I think the potential to be able to be financially successful increases when you treat others in a manner that that demonstrates to them that you're a good partner, that you're a valued partner, that you're a trustworthy partner. That's who we all want to have relationships with. Be that person.
Yeah. I mean, like here, there were parts of my life where I would hire someone. In order to hire them, I would take them out and get them drunk. Right. Or
remember that.
Right. Or clients. I thought that it would be great if I took clients out. Like I used to rent party buses at conventions and take people out on these crazy nights out. But, maybe you got a deal or two from some of those crazy party people, but you never got the big ones, right? If you want to be the trusted partner, right? It's in what you're talking about, the first principles. People want to know that they reach over, they can count on you, that you're a human of character, and that they're, and character doesn't mean you're going to get everything right. I don't think that's
no, actually being able to say I screwed up is something I want to hear.
Yeah, we were at that meeting yesterday with a big client, and one of my VPs said, "Here, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Look, we're the kind of partner that I'm not hiding the ugly from you. We mess things up. We've been working for this client. We've done hundreds of projects a year for this client every year." And he goes, "When the ugly happens, and it does happen, we tell you about it, and here's what we do." Right? We come to you and say, "Look, something happened. So something broke down, or whatever the issue is." And we together solve it. We've never left you hanging. We never will leave you hanging. Who we are is you're shoulder to shoulder with you and your company throughout. And the guy looked at him like, "Yeah, we know that about you. We know that about you and your team. And that's why all of our people crave working with you. That's why my team members made me come to a meeting with you." There was their leader of this, a national leader that came to a regional meeting with the regional people. It's like, "These people made me meet with you." And I go, "Well, that's a great sign, right? That character is in that conversation." Not everybody sounds perfect all the time. Certainly, I don't. But I think when you're there and you're of character, where you say, "Look, I'm a trusted partner. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. When I say I'm going to do it, not always perfectly, because sometimes people get that messed up. Like, I think that's going to be perfect. No, here, I'm going to eat cookies every once in a while." And then realize, maybe I was coming down from pastas over the week, right? I mean, I'm going to realize
just weren't in your discipline.
Well, there was something still in withdrawal. I mean, literally yesterday morning, I was still in withdrawal from the airplane food and the pastas from the week before. I mean, when you think about your body, right? I mean, people are going through sobriety or people are going through drug addiction. It takes a little bit to go through detox. They don't send you to treatment until you go through detox first. Right. Because they realize that your brain, your body isn't capable of hearing what it needs to hear to go to the next level to do some work. So you got to get through that. So I think that's fair in relationships as well, that there are going to be times when the actions we do will be messed up. But then looking at it going, all right, what caused that? I noticed for me, what caused that was I was coming down from that food. So I know I'm talking a lot about that because it was just relevant yesterday. Did
you just get off a plane?
I literally just got off the plane. So sorry.
You're in pretty good shape for that.
Well, it was just that it happened yesterday. It was like such a great awareness. It came up. When you get those awarenesses, they're kind of fun, right? I get to speak to them and share them with others. I'm like, oh man, that was a really cool awareness.
So besides the food and the history, the art, I mean, I've been to Italy a number of times in different areas, and that's, the architecture and the art is just so amazing. What did you bring away from that trip? What struck you?
The people I was with, we had, in my past, my trips were all about debauchery and how crazy we could get. The people I was with, there were 3 couples and 2 single people. We had these intelligent, even sometimes difficult conversations. They were intellectual. What
was a difficult conversation like?
Well, they were like ones that were like, we were talking about politics and racism and social economic stuff, inclusion. And some of these conversations were heavy, right? Because you notice that, I don't know, for me, they'll trigger you. You're like, whoa, that's a little trigger. But it was beautiful the way they happened when you really got to get in there. And I thought to myself, wow, look at this group of people. The old days it would have been about tits and ass and drugs and right, all the crazy. Today we're talking about how to be better parents. What do we do with our children? How do we help guide them in the future? Right? What are the gifts that we can give them?
You know, what I hear from that and what I hope to take away and might be coming in our future is we're a nation that has disagreements.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
We don't have to hate each other.
That's right.
In fact, allowing people to have disagreements and listening. So I assume some of those conversations were conversations in which you didn't agree with what that other person said.
Absolutely.
And did you hate them for it?
No. But what I really noticed we weren't that far apart. In fact, most of the conversations I noticed where we were amazingly close to each other. But what happens is in our society lately is there's these other conversations that get layered on top of them that make it sound like all those people are if you're part of that group, you have to be this way. And I'm like, no, I don't believe in that at all. Right. You could be whatever it was and realize that we're just parents.
So my girlfriend is African-American.
Yeah.
And she grew up in a large family in the ghetto on the near West Side. And she has sometimes extraordinarily different perspectives than mine.
Yeah.
And when we were first dating, it was like, what? How do you see it that way? And the fact that she has such a different background has just allowed me to be able to recognize that, with her, it's so blatantly obvious in front of me that she's different than me.
Yeah.
But every single human being that I come across has that same unique characteristic of experiencing a whole life different than mine.
Yeah.
And how can I possibly expect those people to have the exact same opinion as me? And how can I invalidate their opinion simply because it's different than mine and the experiences that I grew up in?
Yeah. I know.
So I've just learned so much from her.
Yeah.
I feel blessed.
Yeah. So one of the cool ones we had this conversation around spiritual beings having a human experience, right? Like we all kind of boil down to there's part of me that can really feel the spiritual part of me, the part that's connected to all that is, right? That maybe we all came from whatever God or higher power is, that we were all part of this. And we're having we're having 8 billion or 9 billion, how many people are on the planet? 9 billion individual experiences. And there's a benefit to that, right? They're like, we're really creating faster than ever before. The being in me that's got the creator that's in me that makes things happen. 8 billion of us are doing that at one time, right? We're all out there trying on new things, making AI, trying the new wheel, making up new clothes, trying up new outfits, we're new recipes. There's 8 billion creators that are happening. You think we're going to disagree every once in a while about how to create? Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. When we were one, right? Let's just imagine we all came from one being, one entity, right? Look, you were one. Now we've separated and we're driving this little hairless monkey, this little animal, this little vehicle, and we're having an individual human experience. And it's valuable, but it's also going to come with its downsides where we're going to bump up against some conflict. And I think if we could celebrate that, like go, all right, you're having your individual experience and we're bumping up against each other. But, ultimately.
And maybe I could learn from that.
Maybe, right? If we could let down, there does feel like a malevolent force out there, though, that is trying to make that a
divider.
A divider, like it's trying to make that for their profit and gain, right? I feel like the media does that a lot. I mean, I'm really referring to the media that says, "Hey, because you think differently than I do, you must be
wrong.
Must be wrong, or they're evil people."
Right?
And I'm like, no, look. Most of what you're saying about them is, here I can see that. So, I love where we're going with this. I love that coaches like you come to the world and bring us this vision of a place we can go, where we could go as great entrepreneurs, I really do honor that with you. I think that's where I want the world to really get to know you. You know, having that.
Entrepreneurship is simply an extension of the human experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Placed into, a focus on work.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I always come back to core principles of who you are as a human being, because it permeates through every single thing that we do, whether it's being a parent, whether it's how we enjoy our lives with ourselves, whether it's we're successful in business and how we interact and enjoy the professional experience.
Well, Chris, if people want to get a hold of you and have you come on to be their coach, how do they get a hold of you?
They go to my website, which is www.get-looped.com. That's GET-LOOPED.com.
Easy enough. I'll make sure all that's down below in descriptions. We'll have all of Chris's contact information, including his book and all of Chris's information out there. If you want to have a coach like Chris and bring in some wonderful, as I get to experience, wonderful time with a great coach, please look him up. And audience, as always, we're so grateful for you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Hey, just one more thing before you guys leave. Last week, we had over 4,500 downloads. And I noticed that a lot of you downloaded but weren't subscribers yet. If you guys could take a second and like and subscribe and do that now. We have over 40,000 subscribers. We broke the 40,000 subscriber mark last week, and I continue to see us grow. It means the world to Joe and Alyssa and all the people in the background that put this podcast together, the endless hours they do to find us amazing guests like Chris. So if you could do that now for me, I would mean the world. Please do that. Just like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. Thank you.